This is Elizabeth Townsend. This is, I don't even know what day it is today.
August
August 1st. It's August 1st, and this is an interview with Anita Royal for Dean Massar's Preparing for Life in the Law Project. All right, well, we're going to start with the beginning question. What made you decide to go to law school?
You know what? My father had gone to law school in 1953 and then found out that my mother was pregnant with me and stopped. And he never said a word about it and never told us. But in my house, there were these law books from the early 50s. And I used to see them. They were contracts books. And I always wondered what they were and why he had them. And he never said a word. And then my oldest brother, who was 6.5 years older than I am, went to law school. And I was also very much into this whole social justice movement. And I thought that with a law degree, I could change the world. So with a bunch of family inspiration, I went forward and went to law school.
What kind of family inspiration?
You know, my dad, I think, just subtly kind of gave us these very subtle messages about what a great profession the law was without telling us that he had had this experience. Mm-hmm. And then my brother, because I always wanted to emulate him and do everything he wanted to do because of all this love for Big Brother. I think he inspired me, and I saw that he really was very engaged in it, and it was something very interesting. And I remember typing his moot court paper, actually, as when he was a first-year student, and finding it so fascinating. And then also there was always a social justice agenda in my life and my parents really, really promoted it in terms of making a difference in the world, and that a law degree was always probably the most powerful tool and vehicle for social change.
And, well, I'll ask you that question in just a second. What about your brother? Did he keep, has he continued to be a model for you?
Oh, sure. Yeah, he is probably one of the smartest, hardest working lawyers I know. Stayed at the same governmental agency for 22 years, which I just find phenomenal.
And did you think that your decision to go into government, be a government lawyer, was because he had sort of done that, or was it very different?
No, I think it was a lot different. Keeping in mind that the law profession or the legal profession, has not always been the most open profession to everyone. For people of color and women in particular, the firms have not always been accessible to them. I came out of law school wanting to do litigation, and I wanted to do criminal litigation. And so, if you're going to be a criminal defense attorney, you have to go into government service. I am also a social worker. I have a master's degree in social work, and I think that in keeping with my whole tradition and upbringing about social justice and really pursuing social justice, that I felt my niche was in government work, and so I stayed there.
When did you get your master's in social work? Before or after?
Before, in 1979.
So, I mean, there's a young girl who wants to do Masters of Social Work that I know, and I keep saying, do that, but go to law school to be more powerful. I mean, that you can do more. Do you think that's true?
I think that you should get the law degree first and then see if you need the social work degree. The social work degree has been very good for me in terms of being able to deal with people. You know, I think I was perhaps a better criminal defense attorney because I really understood human behavior. I think it's assisted me in my present job. It has given me good management skills, and because some of the stuff that you learn in social work school is management and leadership skills. Social architecture, how to in fact, really deal with systems and how to change systems. The commitment to helping the person to in fact be able to better manipulate and navigate through the system. I think that was social work that taught me those skills.
But we have, Dean Massaro taught a class in Florida that had a lot to do with legal counseling and sort of understanding your client. Do you think that you approach it differently than your colleagues because of your background?
Yes.
And could you talk about a little bit more about that?
I think, again, just back to those same things we talked about in terms of I really, truly understand human behavior because I've worked in the social work arena. I've also been trained as a social worker. That's what social workers are, problem solvers. They help people to, in fact, navigate through systems, understand systems, change systems. They are the true social architects of society. So I think I come from that perspective as opposed to kind of a more narrow legal perspective, okay? For instance, when I was a criminal defense attorney, my area of expertise was psychological defenses, because I understood a lot of the etiology of mental health and mental health issues and that kind of stuff.
Interesting. Maybe we can get back to this later, but Dean Massaro loves stuff about like different, like where you saw that you're like a specific example of where your background helped in a situation that if you hadn't had it, you might have gone a different way.
Certainly, I would say in some of my criminal defense cases, certainly, and this is, my family's telling me to stop bragging about this, but at some point in my career, I was what they called the queen of sex crimes because I understood about family dysfunction. Okay, and I would not have had that background knowledge but for my social work degree. I mean, I understood about what caused family dysfunction. I understood about when there was, in fact, the blended family and the child didn't like the stepfather and what the results could be. I understood when somebody had a mental health diagnosis and how that impacted their behavior and their judgment and their ability to make reasoned decisions. Okay. I understood the importance of how to put together mitigation and that looking at the whole client system as opposed to simply what the legal problem is.
Hi. Okay, I'm out of shape because I'm just right upstairs. I'm supposed to tell you that I'm here to help you with this stuff.
Okay, good.
I'm sorry.
Am I now on
There's been
video?
a,
Yeah,
you're on video.
And you can help. It's okay. I can.
So,
Okay.
from
You know
now on-
Vicky?
Yes,
Anita?
yes,
Okay.
of course. Let me know when I can help
Okay.
you go places or whatever you need.
Okay, great. Okay, great.
So you're
Problem. I'm not. I love it.
right. Well, Tony said you need some help, so
Okay,
here,
great.
let me know. Okay.
Great.
Thanks.
Great.
Sorry.
No
Okay.
problem.
It seems to be true today. They think we're overworking. Right?
I guess.
The new theme.
I know.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. So that's what I know.
All right. So you went to law school so you could change the world and
I
social
sure did.
justice.
I
And
did.
Did it work?
No. I was naive. I was a child of the 60s and the 70s and thought we could change the world and we can only change ourselves. That's all we can really change is ourselves. We can make ourselves better human beings. We can give ourselves the tools and the skills necessary to help people to solve problems, to navigate through systems, to in fact then make change. I mean, I think that lawyers, and I have this great quote that I found that really kind of sums up who I am. And it says, lawyers labor in the vineyards of justice daily and tirelessly, and they think nothing of it as that is what lawyers do. Often these are the very people who change the world. But we only change the world one case by one case, and if we do a class action, one big way, But
Where is that from?
that's in the ABA, and this is a quote from the new ABA president in her column entitled Reflections, and her name is Martha Barnett.
What, if someone wants to
ABA Journal. It is the August 2000 Lawyers Magazine.
So tell me why you like that quote.
Because I think it sums up really who I am and what my vision was in terms of the practice of law.
So tell me more about navigating through systems. You said that a couple times.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of people get stuck.
What is a system and what is navigating?
Any system, the legal system, the commercial system, banking system, the bankruptcy system, that's what lawyers do. Is they help these clients with their problems to work through that system to get the just result that they want at the end.
So what kind of problems do you see now?
Oh, with the job I have now, I see people who are the most vulnerable of our society, who get exploited, who are without assistance from family members, who need to have someone to make sure that there's a safety net there, to make sure that they don't fall through the cracks in the system and languish and die or are abused or neglected. So I see my office and myself as the advocate there to make sure that these people, in fact, maintain quality lifestyles, that they are not victims of exploitation or abuse, and that they are getting and receiving all the benefits that they're entitled to, and that they have an opportunity to, in fact, live as best they can, even if they're in an incapacitated or demented state of life.
Where do you work?
I'm the Pima County Public Fiduciary.
What is a fiduciary?
Fiduciary is a person who, in fact, is in a position of trust and is responsible for the lives and funds and assets of others. So I provide, through my office, we provide court-ordered guardianships, conservatorships, and probate services.
And what is that? If you're a first-year student, you have no
If
idea
you're a
what you
first-year
said.
student, I'll give you a very practical example.
Okay.
Let's take me as an example. This is what a guardian does. And the relationship is very synonymous with that of a parent to a child, okay, in terms of the responsibilities that you have. Anita is wandering the streets aimlessly again. It's 110 degrees outside. She's not properly clothed. She doesn't have shoes on. There's no food in her refrigerator. There's no electricity in her house. And there's no, and her house is filthy. Okay? And there's no family members there to help her. She's got some medical issues that are untreated, and she refuses to treat them because she has a mental illness. She's paranoid schizophrenic. Okay? So, what happens then is the neighbor calls and say, we see Anita doing all this very bizarre behavior. We're worried about her mental health. We're worried about her personal safety. We think she's going to get exploited. She could get harmed. And someone calls my office, and an investigator in my office goes out and looks and meets Anita, talks to all the people in her environment to find out what's going on. Are there family members, friends who can in fact assist her? Are there services that can be in place in the community to assist her to not fall through the cracks? And does she meet the statutory definition for a Title 14 guardian, which is that someone, because of a mental illness, health, infirmity, disability, age, is unable to care for their basic needs? Okay? So then my office will determine if there's anyone else willing and able to serve in that capacity. If there is not, if the person fits the statutory definition, we run over to court and we become their court-appointed guardian. At that point in time, I become like the parent to that person, and then I make sure that all their food, clothing, and shelter and medical needs are taken care of. I don't pay for them, but we use their resources to do it. We make sure that they have all the benefits available to them. We make sure they're placed in a secure place, that they in fact get the medical care that they require, that in fact they get socialization and whatever else they need to in fact exist in some quality of life. Okay? And then on the other side, there is a conservatorship. And conservators are people who in fact are entrusted with the management of other people's assets. Currently, we manage about $14 million worth of other people's property and assets. So what I do is, if, again, someone is unable to care or to properly manage their assets for the same reasons, mental illness, defect, infirmity, or they're decisionally incapacitated is typically what the standard is that we use, then my office will again become the court-appointed conservator if there's no one else willing and able to serve in that capacity. Then I pay all their bills, I manage and invest all their money. Okay, I make sure that if there is in fact legal action that it jeopardizes their finances or assets, that in fact we prosecute those cases if it's a financial exploitation case, or we respond to any adverse litigation that might be going on in that person's life. So it's kind of full service. It's probably one of the first multidisciplinary practices in the country, actually, because we work with social workers, lawyers, accountants, property managers, benefits managers.
Okay, I have 1,000 questions.
Okay.
First, what happens if they don't qualify for Title 14? Are they out of the system, or?
They are not my client, but then we hope to always refer people so that they in fact have a safety net there to make sure that they don't fall through the cracks.
And is it hard to qualify?
No, because again, all you need to do is have this mental illness, defect, infirmity, and it has impacted on your ability to make good decisions for your life. And there are many seniors out there who fit the category. We're never looking for clients, let's say that.
It's true.
And sometimes we're always able to, or sometimes we're able to find family members, friends, relatives who are willing to step up to the plate and assist the person.
How much help do you have? Do you
I have
just-
31 staff people.
And okay, so we'll get back to that in terms of, we'd like to talk about how you keep it all moving and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But let's talk a little bit more about what this is. How long do people stay in your, is it a program? Does it feel like a program that they have to get through like certain steps?
No.
Or are they in it forever?
They're
or-
in it as long as the need exists.
And who determines that?
What a guardian does is every year files a report of guardian to the court, and then the court makes that decision if the guardian still needs to be in place. Same thing with the conservator.
And what do you do when you have really hard, difficult people?
We always have very hard, difficult people. And we always try to problem solve around them, to, again, making sure that we go in with what's called substituted judgment, and that we go into this person's life trying to make the decisions that they would make but for their infirmity or incapacity. Okay? So sometimes I have clients, for instance, who don't want to have medical care. I try to, in fact, discern from them why they're quasi-competent, what kind of self-determined others, what kind of directives, personal directives they make about their medical care. So, for instance, if someone has said to me, I don't ever want to be on life support, I respect that because I again go in with substitute judgment. Perhaps the hardest case we had was I also serve on a bioethics committee out of Keno Hospital as part of my duties as the public fiduciary. And we had a young man who was 32 years old who was a quadriplegic as a result of a very serious accident he had right in front of UMC. And but for the fact the accident occurred in front of UMC, he would not have survived. But he survived, and his body began to deteriorate over the course of about a 7-year period, to the point where he had decided that it was enough. And presently, the law says a competent person may choose to end their life as long as there is a finding of competency. And this young man made a decision to kill himself. I mean, ultimately to disconnect the life support. And we were a part of that decision. And that we helped him to, in fact, because he could not write and he could barely speak, we videotaped him doing his healthcare power of attorney and his directives. And he was evaluated by 2 independent psychologists and psychiatrists. And the medical doctor did, in fact, disconnect the ventilator that he was on, and he passed away. And that was very difficult for me because he was only 32 years old. But you know, it's about substituted judgment. It's not about the judgment that I would make for my life. It's about respecting the self-determination of other people.
What if you find staff members who don't have substituted judgment? Do you find that to be a problem?
No. We hire very mature people who have really thought through these things, and we make sure that they have lots of experiences, life experiences, so they're able to handle the decisions. We've had a couple employees, and there's a lot of supervision that goes on with this, that were unable to make those kind of decisions, and we had to step in.
Do you think a lawyer should have substituted?
Oh, sure.
As well. I mean, like if you're not in, you're in a very unique place.
No, only substituted judgment is necessary if the person is incapacitated. Because if the client is competent, the client is the person who needs to make the decision because it's their life. And the lawyer's here to give them the options and to guide them and to make sure, of course, always that they do it in an ethical way. And I think that's something that's very important, that in this day and age, as we're so business-driven in our profession, we have to remember that it has to be ethical. And that sometimes our clients, with their zest and zeal to win, forget that we are bound by ethical requirements, and it's very important that we always adhere to them.
And do you have to explain that a lot to them?
In my business, no. And when I was, for instance, in a firm, yes, sometimes there were times when you had to remind the client of right, wrong, ethics, unethical conduct, that we cannot be in a society that is driven by greed and money, but there are right things to do things, and sometimes we always don't win. Sometimes we don't win.
And how did they respond
well,
to that?
depending on the client. I mean, depending on how it's presented to the client. I mean, I'm someone who, if you meet me, you know I'm Miss Ethics. I mean, I'm not playing anything else. We're not going to skirt it. We're not going to get on the line. We're not getting on the fence. I am Miss Ethics. I mean, I firmly believe that that's the way see, that's how I conduct my life. It's not just about the legal profession, it's about how I conduct my life. I'm a very ethical person.
Tell us more.
I was raised by these parents who said, you always adhere to the golden rule. I mean,
what's the golden rule?
The golden rule is you do unto others as you do unto yourself. You expect them to do unto you.
So what if you come around somebody who's a bully? What do you do?
I'm a bully.
But what if, you're a bully?
I am a bully.
You're
absolutely.
The bully. You're an ethical bully.
I'm an ethical bully. I have always been a very assertive, aggressive lawyer. I mean, people will say about me that when I made the switch from criminal defense, for instance, to this job, where I am more aligned with the prosecutors, I am equally as zealous as a criminal defense attorney as I am as a civil prosecutor, in a sense. No, it's because you have to always effectively represent your client with all of the skills and knowledge and tools that you have available to you. And I believe in that. I mean,
do you see others around you believing? I mean, is it a struggle?
I am concerned by some of the practice, especially of some of our younger lawyers, and that they're overzealous. And that they forget it's not just about winning. It's about doing the right thing. And it's about your reputation. And that if you give your word, that should be enough. And see, what I see now in the profession after 17 years is people having to always paper each other with documents on, documenting everything, papering each other, because no one trusts one another. And that's sad. That's very, very sad.
You think it's about trust, or you think it's about billable hours?
I think it's about professionalism. And for us wanting to kind of redefine what professionalism really means. I'm of the school of thought of the old. I like the old lawyers, some like the people like the Burr Udall, who, if he gave you his word, you knew that's exactly what was going to happen in the case. You didn't have to worry about it because he gave you his word. You didn't have to send him a confirming letter. If Burr gave you his word, that was it.
Not true anymore?
For Burr, it is. I mean, he is someone who I look at as someone who was a hero, okay? But not all lawyers are like that. I mean, and it's unfortunate.
What about the emphasis on billable hours and making lots of money
it's
and
crazy.
all those things?
It's crazy. I mean, I look at these young lawyers who want to go out into the profession, and a good example, I was just teaching at the University of California, Berkeley, in the Anita program, and this young man was there to be a participant. And all day long, his partner is calling him. It's like, well, what's the message here? The message is, I want you to be in this program, but I also still want you to build 22 hours a year. And so the young man really was not able to really experience what he needed to in the NETA program because he was so concerned, obsessed about these billable hours. We've gotten out of control here. I mean, we are fashioning ourselves too much after the big 6 accounting firms, or how many are left there are now. But yeah, we need to go back to, we are a service profession. And we don't have to grow bigger and larger and fancier, and we don't have to, in fact, make all the money in the world. We can make decent livings and give good quality products and serve our clients without having to force our associates to bill 2,200 hours a year.
Do you think that part of the problem with the profession is this expectation of material gain that is out of control?
Absolutely. That's a problem in society right now. That is a systemic problem right now, is that we've kind of lost focus of what's important in life, and we've put much too much importance on material gains and financial gains. So we need to kind of shift back a little bit. I think we need to get more balance in terms of what's important. It's interesting, if you look at what corporate executives are saying now, these guys who ran the world, they're now saying, oh my God, we blew it. We spent so much time chasing the buck, chasing the power, chasing the title, and we lost families. We are in poor health. We have voids in our personal lives. And now they're saying to young executives, balance is the key, folks. It doesn't have to be always about chasing that dollar. It can be about taking care of families. And you see these guys, 65 years old, new 30-year-old wife with 2 babies, okay? This is what this is about. They're trying to recapture that youth. They're trying to figure out what they did wrong.
Yeah.
But the message that they're giving to young execs is balance.
Okay, so let's say you want to be in a firm, you want to do all that, and they want you to do 2,200 hours. Do you just choose not to be in a firm?
No, I mean, I met a young lawyer who's 10 years younger than I am, so he's not quite young, but he's been out probably practicing 10, 15 years. When I was in Berkeley teaching, and I referred to him the whole time I was there as my hero, because this was a young man who was in a very prestigious IP firm, and got sick. Done the 2,200 hours, perfect partner type guy, senior associate, excellent lawyer, by everybody's estimates, excellent lawyer, okay? Got sick, right? Immediately understood what that meant, that his health was more important than staying in that firm. Downsized, okay? Had some cash, decided what he wanted to do with his life, went back, he's now teaching. He works part-time for the firm when he wants to, pretty much. Spends time drawing, he's an artist. Spends time working out every day, okay? Spends time writing every day. Because it's about this balance in his life. So he figured it out. And he said to me, even when I was in the firm, I understood what I needed to do for myself.
Okay, so okay, I like that story a lot.
Yeah.
Let's go with that one more. Okay, so I'm going to graduate, and I want a job, but I also want to, how do I do that?
Balance.
But how do you,
because you have to learn how to work smart. Not longer, but smarter.
But even if I work and I get my work done fast, they're still going to want me there for a certain amount of hours.
But you have to also set the tone, because you have to protect yourself. Remember, the partner wants somebody who's going to carry his briefcase, okay? You have to protect yourself because you will burn out. An example, I have a dear friend, whose daughter is a merger and acquisitions lawyer in Atlanta. Came off of Wall Street, billing the 2,200 hours, moved into a firm in Atlanta, did the business. Partnership came up, did not become the partner. Okay, all of that for naught. She's devastated right now. She has no personal life. She has no outside interests. She's 34 years old, and she's like, what do I do now?
Right.
So you don't want to be in that position. You have to be a whole person in order to succeed professionally. It makes you a better professional when you have outside interests. It makes you become a more rounded professional. It enhances your ability to make better judgments when you have external experiences. You cannot just be this person who's got these blinders on, who is myopic, and that all they see in their life is the law firm and some tiny little office where they sit there and try to, in fact, succeed. Law firms want to see people who are successful personally as well as professionally. And I think this was what happened with this young woman. She was not able to bring in the business, but also she was just one-dimensional.
So, let's get to your staff. So, are there people on your staff then that don't work a full?
Yes, I am very flexible, and that I have 3 lawyers who work part-time, 1 lawyer who works full-time, and then I'm there all the time. Okay. I have legal assistants to augment that piece so that, in fact, that assists the people who are the part-time lawyers to be able to maintain a full caseload.
Do you feel differently about your part-time lawyers than your
No.
full-time lawyers?
I think that my part-time lawyers are as capable and competent as my full-time lawyer. They're very good.
Do you think that firms recognize that when you're a
No.
part-time lawyer?
Because we have not grown that far yet. I mean, we just have not. I mean, and that was the whole issue about Mommy Track, is that women who came out of the market who wanted to go back in part-time often did not get back on partnership track. I know of some examples of women who became partners working part-time because they were very efficient. They were just excellent lawyers. The key, I think, for all young lawyers is to be well prepared and to produce an excellent work product. I mean, that's the critical issue here.
Right.
It's not how many hours you work, but how well do you produce your product. And the other thing young lawyers have to understand is understanding about the politics of the firm. That was something that I did not understand about when I was in a firm, was about the politics of the firm. Because if you don't understand the politics of the firm, you're not going to stay there long.
Like what?
Like in terms of you can't just work for your partner, because if you and your partner fall out, guess what? You're out of there. Okay? You have to figure out how you fit into the whole, not just into your one section. Okay? And that you need to, in fact, build support through the firm. Okay? You need to do work for other people, not just for the partner that you're working for. You need to understand what is the vision of the firm? What is the firm trying to be? What is the image they're trying to portray? And see how you fit into that image. Okay? So that you can, in fact, be out there and be an ambassador for that firm to bring in work for the firm. Because if you don't do business development, you're not going to become a partner. I can promise you that, unless your work is like so extraordinary they can't live without you.
And what is business development?
Business development is when you bring in new clients.
And did you like doing that or did you not?
No one likes bringing in new clients, especially because as a young associate, you're always torn between the demands of your billables and then also trying to have some semblance of a personal life. And then for me, it was also having a commitment to my community in terms of doing pro bono work and doing community work. So it's difficult to, make time to bring in those clients.
There's too much to do.
Yeah, but you know what? But people can balance it. I mean, because people have been doing it successfully for years.
Yeah.
But it's just, again, that balance. And I see a lot of young lawyers forgetting about the balance and wanting to just go for the gusto, and then 3 to 5 years out, where are they? They're just kind of shallow, empty people. And they're then put out of these firms because they are not partnership material. And then what do? They're devastated. Mm-hmm. And, I have a young friend who just recently was asked to leave a firm. And he was absolutely devastated. But he looked back and said, one of the things I didn't do was take care of my politics. I didn't go to lunch with people. I didn't become a part of them. I didn't understand what the firm's mission and goal was. I didn't fit in. And I knew it. But I didn't do anything to help myself along here. So you have to be your best ally in terms of that and not just be a worker bee. And he was just a worker bee.
Interesting. Okay, I'm going to ask a couple more questions on this topic. Do you have any men who are part-time or is it always women?
I have a male who's part-time. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, I am very fortunate to have a lawyer who was in a single firm for 25 years. Left that firm and has been with me now for about 90 days. Loves it. We love him. He integrates well into the environment. And he is there kind of as our malpractice specialist. and he makes sure that he monitors the liability in the office and deals with any potential malpractice issues, whether it's because of our staff's actions or because of something else that's going on in the world.
All right, I'm going to switch topics a little bit. We've just to give you a sense of what we've done with other people. We've talked about women who came out really like only one or two in their class.
Yes.
Those women.
Mm-hmm.
I also do a lot on. I'm a historian by training too, so I do a lot on women's history. And so my question to you is: do you still see it? You graduated in 83.
Mm-hmm.
So you're modern. You're hipster, modern, current age. Like it's not 1910.
No.
Do you see issues of being a woman of color? Still?
Certainly. I was the only person of color in my African American person in my class, my dear.
The only one? Here.
Yeah.
In the early 80s.
1980, I started.
Wow. That's really amazing.
There was a young man who was part African American and part Colombian or Venezuelan, who was the son of a famous jazz musician. He lasted one semester and went back to New York. So after that, it was me.
Why do you think that was?
You know what? It was too culturally isolated for him out here. And so he went back to New York. Didn't like the law.
And so why do you think you were the only one? I mean, was it just the admissions way, or
You know
was
what?
it
In
not
those days,
culture, or?
University of Arizona, because remember, Arizona only has approximately 3% African American population here. And Arizona has not always been that successful in effectively recruiting and retaining students of color. So that's kind of how that happened. I was fortunate enough to have been mentored. I went through the CLEO program and then was mentored
I don't know what
by,
that is.
it used to be a, the Bridge program now? It was similar to the Bridge program, but it was a program run out of Washington. It was called the Council for Legal Educational Opportunities. And I was mentored and encouraged to stay here by former Judge Joe Livermore. And that he taught a class in CLEO, and I was their number one student. So they encouraged me to stay here, and I did.
That's a very good story. You were at the Bridge lunch today,
Yes.
weren't you? Tell us a little bit about why you think that's important and why you came today.
Because I continue to believe in the importance of giving back to the law students. And I believe that at some level I'm a role model. And I want to always say to the students, you can do this. I did it. And there are people who support you in this environment. The law school is open and willing to help you. I'm here to help you, and this is just my part of giving back. Because, when I was here, there weren't a lot of people who were here supporting me.
So what was it like?
You know what? When I was here, being the only African American student, you kind of stood out in your class. But, I was very fortunate to have support from my faculty, with special support from Dean Henderson.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. Dean Henderson is one of my favorite people in the world.
Tell me why.
You know what? He
You
just
seem so crusty, and
I know, but it's true. I mean, he really was someone who was just a great supporter. Just gave me great support. I was in his class, toward, one day he asked a question, I gave him some cryptic response, and after then we just started going back and forth with each other. And he's always been there. He was always there for me in law school. I had problems, he was always there supporting me. He was very supportive of me.
What do you think the relationship of student and professor is? I mean, do you think that people should seek out to a lot of people never get to know their
No,
professors.
they don't, and that's a mistake. I mean, I have very fond memories of some of the faculty. I mean, I adored Professor Henderson. Professor Hagelin was a dear friend of mine, and is still a very dear friend of mine. Yeah, I mean, I had very, very good relationships with some of my faculty. I should have probably sought out more of them. But with those that I did have a bond, I have a very special bond. Tom Malway was my professor. I've taught for him for 10 years. He's someone who I perceive as one of my role models in life. I adore Tom.
Why?
Tom's a great lawyer, first of all. He's an excellent professor, and he's just been a good friend to me over the years.
And what makes a good friend?
You know what? He has always been supportive of me in my career. And then that's the thing I can say about Tom. He's always been very supportive of me in my career. He's been there if I've ever needed him, and vice versa.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
So how is the state of women of color changed? Is it any
Well,
better?
we haven't changed a lot, I'm sorry to say. We still represent only about 3% of the profession in terms of people of color, African Americans do. We are making some inroads into the firm world. We are not making nearly enough. For instance, in Tucson, Arizona, for instance, there is not one African American woman who is a partner in a firm. Not one. There is not one African American woman who is, in fact, on the state court bench. We have one on the federal court bench, but none on the state court bench at all. We have one African American woman who was on the state court bench in Phoenix. This is 2001. It's just one in the entire state. I mean, that's a problem, okay?
It's horrible.
Yeah.
So I'm a young girl about to graduate, woman of color, or not, or whatever. What do I do?
Get yourself some mentors. If you have, figure out what your practice areas are going to be, and don't remember what one of my mantras is endless possibilities.
I like that.
Challenge your environment. Don't just go into these traditional areas of law, because so many people of color end up in government work. I mean, I'm so pleased with the young woman who I know who went into mergers and acquisitions, and even though everybody told her she was going to bomb, but she did, and she's a great young lawyer.
Why would they say that?
Because it's a traditional male area.
Do you think a woman of color has a harder time than a man
Yes.
of color?
Yeah.
If you're a strong woman like you are, do you think you have more?
Oh, absolutely, because I do not fit into the mold as easily, and I don't fit into the stereotypes, okay? And when you're a partner, you're not looking for a feisty associate. you're looking for somebody to carry that briefcase and to be a bit subservient, okay?
Okay, so if you don't want to be that, if you want to be feisty, what? For those out there that are feisty, what do you say
Always
to them?
have an excellent work product. Be smart, well prepared, okay, and perform excellently. See, there's no substitute, in my opinion, for being well prepared and providing your client with an excellent product. There's just no substitution for that. I don't care what color you are. That's what you've got to do to survive in this profession. People who want to just go along to get along, that's not going to make a good lawyer. My brother told me that he doesn't know a lawyer who's worth anything that works less than 60 hours a week. And he's always worked 60 hours a week for 22 years. And we were taught about the importance of excellence.
And what if you're not so excellent? What do you do?
You do the best, because my father always said, you give the very best that you can give. That's what you give. You just give what you can give is the very best. And after that, it's not up to you, but you give what you can give. You don't go in there and give half of yourself. You give 100% of yourself. And that really is the message that I give to young people. You got to give 100%.
So, okay, I have enough. Yeah, you're so easy to talk to. Let me ask you. Okay, what if you're just someone that no matter what you do, you just feel like you're messing up?
But that's self-image stuff.
That's just internal.
That's self-image stuff. And you've got to believe in yourself. There's a lawyer in town who was raised in Ethiopia, and he told me, he said, in being raised in that environment, they were told that they were like the sun and the stars and the moon, and they were all these little special gifts from God. And that's how you have to think about yourself. That you're this special person. Now, you may not be the best person, and I may not be the sharpest pencil in the drawer, and I'm not, okay? But I always try to do the very best I can do with everything I do. And I always try to take full advantage of every opportunity that I've been given. Now, do I always succeed? Oh, no, because I have a certain slacker mentality to me at times. But I try to do the best I can do. And I try to have fun. See, that's the other thing people forget. Have fun in this life, because you only get one life, And if you blow it searching, chasing the dollars, you're not going to be a happy girl.
I like that.
It's true. I mean, you got to have fun in your life. I mean, if you don't have any fun, what in the hell else do you have?
So what do you do for fun?
Oh, I'm a crazy person. I rollerblade.
You do?
Oh, absolutely. I work out. I travel. Matter of fact, I do the tennis thing. I'm a spectator tennis person. I shop. I decorate my house. I collect art. I go to movies. I go to theater. I hang out. I just try to enjoy my life.
We've talked to some people who have deal with tough situations. I mean, everyone deals with them, but you deal with people who are really having a hard time.
Yeah.
How do you disconnect when you go home? Do you disconnect, or do you take the problems home? Or?
You know what? I am prone to take the problems home. So I tell you what I really do a lot of is community service. I mean, I have to tell you honestly, that is the balance for me is community service. And a lot of mentoring. I do a lot of mentoring of young lawyers and young law students. I mean, that helps me too, to keep it balanced. Because then you see these bright futures, and you don't see so much devastation in your life. Because you're looking at, look at how bright this can be. You know, and I really am, I think I get such joy out of mentoring young lawyers. I mean, I do, I have to tell you, it's absolutely my passion. Because I can think, God, look what that person did. I'm so proud of that person. You know, and I'm not going to have it, you know, when I see somebody doing something great that I work with. I mean, really honest.
Oh, you have such good energy. I imagine your mentors and your clients just feel good. I mean, that you make them feel good.
I
You know,
have
that
been,
you've got-
yeah, I mean, I do good client service. I mean, I really do believe in my clients, and I try to give them the very best I can.
Do you think if, I mean, that in part being a lawyer is also giving your heart and your spirit to
Yes,
your clients?
you have to have passion. See, if you don't have passion, you can't be a good lawyer, in my opinion. You have to have passion about being a lawyer. You have to love it. You have to love the law at some level.
Okay, so what if you don't, or what if you don't know what that is?
Find something else to do. You know what? You don't have to practice the traditional. You don't have to engage in the traditional practice of law. The law is a flexible degree. It provides you again with endless possibilities. Do something else within the law that gives you pleasure and joy. Because there's something out there for you. You just have to figure out what fits with your spirit.
So if I'm a second year and have no idea what I'm doing, that's okay.
That's right. Absolutely, because you know what? You're going to probably change 10 times before you retire.
All right, we're gonna run out of time, so
Okay.
we have some other questions to go on to.
Well.
You're not done. That wasn't the end bell.
Okay.
Let's just shift gears.
Let's
though.
shift. That's the transition.
Okay, we'll do the first one so we don't. We've asked this is our dumb question that we ask everyone. Well, it's not dumb, but it's kind
No
of
question
dorky.
there about that.
It's a little dorky.
Okay.
What's your happiest moment, or what are some of your happiest moments as a lawyer?
As a
practicing
lawyer?
the law?
Oh, winning cases, girlie. When that jury came back and said, "You're it, girlfriend." And it was interesting because when I was doing criminal defense work, I developed this habit of crying at not guilties.
Why?
I have no idea. Because of all the tension. But those truly are my happiest moments when I won cases.
Were you afraid ever that you would win? That you didn't want your, like, for whatever reason that...
I believe absolutely in this whole notion of the presumption of innocence. I embraced it 100%. Did I have clients who probably did something? Yeah. Was I shocked when I won those cases? Absolutely.
Were you ever scared of your clients?
Was I ever? I had a client who I understood was beyond my comfort zone. Okay. He was alleged to have killed an African-American woman approximately my age and then raped her. And made a comment about she's still warm to his friend and he wanted to do the same thing. He was beyond my comfort zone and I had to tell him he had to get another lawyer. He cried and cried and cried, but we had to separate from each other. I don't think I was ever afraid of any of my clients. I had pretty good client control. I mean, you know.
In what way? Because of your personality?
Yeah, my personality, and I set the tone. See, you know, there are boundaries for clients, okay? So we don't get into my personal life ever. And I also set the tone. I am the lawyer, you are the client. And I'm fairly controlling. And but my clients all know that I'll give them 199%. And, you know, so I really never had a lot of client problems. You know, now we have people who complain, but I'm not client problems really. Because I really do try to give good client service, and I try to be very responsive to them and, you know, try to figure out what's going on with them.
Okay, I don't have, you'll see my complete ignorance. I haven't gotten to this question because I don't know how to, you're Judge Pro Tempore? How do you say the last
I'm
word?
a judge pro tem.
Pro Tem.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that.
I love it.
What is it?
That's when I go out to juvenile court and I preside over trial reviews and detention hearings, and once or twice I've had adjudication hearings. See, for me, it all begins with children. If someone would ask me how to describe myself, the first thing I would say about myself is I'm absolutely committed to children and families. I'm a child advocate. I mean, I believe that we as a society must give more to our children. So when I see young people in there, I look at them and think, how can I impact their life in the short period of time that I have with them? and how can I help their families and them to become responsible people. I love this. I mean, that is the thing that I love most in my life right now, other than teaching. I mean, teaching and being a pro tem at juvenile court are the two passions that I have.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about teaching.
I love my students.
Tell me about your students.
I
What do you
teach
teach?
trial practice,
Uh-huh.
and I find it such a wonderfully engaging and entertaining process, because I am helping to teach these young students how to try a case and how to dispel all these myths and fears about litigation work, and I love it.
And what do you think we've talked a lot about what is the point of law school. What do you think the point of you just said it, but there's this whole thing about should you have a lot of practice experience,
Yes.
should you not? And that's you're
I'm on
an
the practice
advocate.
side. Yeah, I'm on the practice side. I think that more students need to have clinical experiences, and also some schools require students to take a trial practice so that they can in fact go to court and at least be an effective advocate for their client. Even if they never want to do trial work per se, but to be able to stand up and do the dance in court is very important for all lawyers.
Even if you're really shy.
Even if you're really shy, because I try to make it fun and I try to make it very non-threatening for everybody. So, and it's not about how well you do, it's just about being able to stand up and do the dance for me. So, you can bomb, you can be terrible, but if you're willing to risk and stand up and do that dance and let a little bit of the creative side of you come out, because that's what litigation work is the creative side of you comes out, and to be able to take the creative piece and that right brain, piece and kind of meld it together. Then I see the little sparkles in their eyes, even the shyest ones at the end of the semester. And I nurture them and love them. They come out thinking they can do it all.
That's fabulous.
I love it though. I do. I absolutely love it. I get excited.
That's really good. All right, we're running out of.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that you'd like
No,
to say?
thank you.
You are fabulous.
All right, I'm out of here.
That's great.